Hello and welcome to the champion bracket. Congratulations to everyone who's made it this far, especially to Imperiex who managed to get here on his first tournament submission. And to Conga who's coming out of retirement for the first time in a long time. But let's get these going. Up first we have Icemam up against Lair. Icemam previously did very well because he was able to endure, but Lair is bringing a few more cannons than the opponents that he fought in the past. I think Lair might actually have enough cannon saturation to pull this off, but we'll see how it goes. And have a good night, Al. Yeah, you can see Duke has plenty of cannon saturation and takes round one. Behold the power of the wedge. And Lair takes the match. Now we have Insane Asylum up against Debris. Insane Asylum previously functioning very well as a benefit of his relatively large size and considerable amount of ejecta. But we'll see how that holds up against the Considerer. The Considerer is a bit tougher than most opponents, however, one of Insane Asylum's balls is going in from the no side. It was a while back I started doing the champions as a double elimination, Darfix. Yeah, it was only a few tournaments ago, but I think it was probably 6 or 8 months, something like that. And yeah, one of Insane Asylum's balls is going in the no side. And they've got a pretty good bit. This one's not really firing half of its guns for whatever reason. But like we've got the scale 2 plasmas, and at close range the pulsars actually do pretty good damage. I kind of understand, Exter. When you said something about the gross whatever, I don't know what that means. And I don't think it's an energy problem with Insane Asylum, but it might be, actually. Yeah, I don't see generator anywhere. Okay, so yeah, it's a generator issue. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I see them kind of buried. Game. There's 3 generators kind of buried there, 4 of them, but I don't think that's enough. So Debris manages to take round 1. Well, that's just it, NSG. He is Drek and insane. It's that whole multiple personality disorder. Yeah, you can see the ball going in the no side. Just saturating it with ejecta. I know I've seen that in videos before, but you know, that's fantasy, that's not reality. But consider her down. And this one little child just wants to be brave. Look at him. And Asylum takes round 2. Now you can see it's the Consider and his children, so like this is the Consider. I'm guessing these are like elementary school age children. It's already dead. Consider also has a very tiny baby, like he brought his infant to the battlefield. That's just bad parenting. And Asylum killed the Consider, and I think that's probably the match. Apparently the solution to dealing with Considerers is to just throw your balls at them. in case anyone was wondering. Yeah, the considerer did fail to consider the balls. You'd always consider the balls. And Insane Sound takes the match. So next up, we have Icemam up against Debris. I was talking about the infant. This little guy. Look at him. Aww. This little bitty guy. Icemam doing so well, doing well so far on the scoreboard at least. I think his torpedo volley was taken out by a missile. Yes, there are railguns on the eggplant. Ooh, and the eggplant is getting creative with the strategies here. Could work out a little rough for him. Yeah, the considerer is way behind, but there's still a minute left. If the eggplant makes the right kind of decisions, then it can grind itself to death pretty quickly on the hull of the considerer. The kiter, or the children in this case, are actually not doing the considerer much in the way of a favor. The point where I'm wondering if the considerer would have been better off bringing a couple generators and throwing some cannons out on the wings. Eggplant behaving itself now though. We'll see if that holds up. Yeah, it's the only opponent that it's struggled with due to the children, but the children haven't really been a contributing factor in any other match. Like, they have a couple of missile launchers and a decent little chunk of health, but for the most part, there have been non-factors. I think maybe with the way that the considerer is laid out, it's got the missile pod on the side. I think if it had a plasma pod directly opposite or something like that, with some generators, might be a little better off. As it is, it's lost a few rounds and dropped a couple of matches because it can't actually hurt its opponent. Like the eggplant just sitting there. It's gotten as many kills from things grinding themselves to death on its hull as it has from actually shooting the enemy. Yeah, I think Considerer was the first, although this isn't a first gen Considerer. This is like a Gen X Considerator, or a Gen Y Considerer. I know Triple C is Consider, Condense, Consume. I think he didn't want to use the cannons because of budgeting reasons. Cannons get pretty expensive because of the generators. But the eggplant did manage to win, so Considerer is completely out, and now we have Insane Asylum up against Duke's Lair. And Duke's Lair immediately just lops off one of the balls. It's cruel. Cruel Duke. We're talking about cannons on the Crystalline ship. Crystalline doesn't have railguns. And Duke manages to knife both of the balls. And Duke almost managed to knife both of the balls in one pass. And there it is, Duke takes the match. Fucking mean. But now we have Icemam up against Insane Asylum. Look at all them cannons. Doing cannon stuff. This does not look like it's going to go well for the eggplant. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Balls are apparently better than dicks. I mean, eggplants. And then Insane Asylum takes the match. So now we have Imperiex up against Clem Hazard. Imperiex cleaned house in his subpool, if I remember right. Largely due to the fact that he just brought more health to the field, and those protein swords did work. But as we're seeing now, Clem Hazard's ship still behaving itself rather well. And because Imperix's fleet is driving straight at him, those mines are actually getting a good chance to do mine things. And there's some disrespect out of Clem's ship. Not that I think it's going to be a terribly significant factor against one of the probes, but against the proton sword, that could be a problem. Yeah, look at all that protein. And Imperiex takes round 1. Death by protein. It's a terrible way to go. Yeah, these little probe guys are not easy for Clem to manage. And Clem's had probably the best behaved kiter up until now. So to all the other kiters that managed to make it this far, it could be a problem. I think it's a little early to call this a win for his debut tourney. He still has to figure out how to deal with Duke's Lair. But he is definitely coming out the gate swinging. There's no doubt about that. Though Clem Hazard is slowly but surely taking apart all these little probes. I don't think there's enough time in the match though. Imperiex brought enough DPS to the field, or enough HP to the field, that I don't know Clem Hazard has the DPS to kill it all. And yeah, Duke is, I think, our resident cockblocker. And Clem takes round 2. As is being echoed in chat over and over, as long as Clem stays away from the protein sword ship, he should be okay. But who knows? Oh, there's protein swords, and that's it. Imperiex takes the match. So next up we have Conga up against Exderp 7. And I think we're going to see a similar problem here for Exderp as he was having in some of the other matches. I don't think he can break a shield. And so I think Conga's just going to take this one on points, assuming he doesn't grind himself to death. Which is entirely possible. And yeah, currently tanks are about the only ones I really trust to kite well, and that's only because they can recoil themselves to safety. If Derp had some melee spikes on those things, they'd be super dangerous. And he had like 100 points spare. Could have put like a full rack of melee spikes on the outer hull. Since armor plate's now 4 and melee spikes are 2, we're maxed out at 24 spikes. He could have put a full rack of melee spikes on both of these things. I think that would have really made some problems for people. Think of how many times ships have crashed into his hull. But in the meantime, I think Conga's just going to take this one on points attrition. Conga having the most durable kiter, I think, in the tournament. Still trying to grind itself to death, but taking a lot longer doing it. Or maybe Exturb 7's gonna get a whole bunch of points out of nowhere. Yeah, I think kiters, if we can get rid of the disrespect behavior and have it stop factoring point defense into DPS calculations for range, I think we're going to have kiters be the dominant form of ship. I don't know that anyone else will be able to compete with them. And round 1 to Conga. Yeah, torp fans are expensive. Mostly because in order to get a decent torp fan you need a solid 8 to 10 torp launchers. Yeah, they're also very heavy. Like watching toddlers fight. But Conga did manage to sneak in, you dead butt. There's actually, if you look at the design of Exturb ships, it's difficult for the AI to pull off, but there's a pretty narrow path where there's only a couple of actual pieces of armor protecting the core. But now we have Exturb 7 up against Clem Hazard, and I fully expect Clem Hazard to run away with this one. Exturb's had too many problems dealing with shields, and Clem Hazard is bringing plenty of large-scale AoE damage. Yeah, one of the big things to consider with the AI in Reassembly is that it tries to make the best decisions it can, but it doesn't have nearly as much information available to it as one might think. Like it doesn't actually know about the shape of the enemy, it doesn't know about the placement of the enemy's components, it doesn't know about where various bits are. Anything you see that looks like the AI is making really intelligent strategic decisions is mostly just emergent behavior. Yeah, the point gap is pretty narrow on this one, but I suspect there's a fair chance Clem is going to pick up a kill here in the near future. Or Clem's going to damn near grind himself to death. Who knows? One of the two is definitely going to happen, though. And Clem got his kill, which should be enough. Even if he tries to grind himself to death, I think he'll be alright. And Clem Hazard takes the match. Now we have Clem Hazard up against Insane Asylum, which is a new matchup for the both of them. Though I think, yeah, Clem seems to be behaving himself, which is going to bode very well. Even with all the point defense on Insane Asylum ships, that doesn't really help against the antimatter at all. And another interesting tactic of note that Clem's using is that his ship doesn't have flat angles anywhere, meaning if he ever collides with the wall, the ship will turn and be forced to do something one way or another rather than just getting stuck. A lot of the time for kiting oriented ships, getting stuck to the wall happens all the time and is typically fatal, but because Clem can't get stuck to the wall, it's just not a problem he has to deal with. Yep. As long as Clem keeps behaving, then I don't see how Clem could lose this. He has the better range projection, although sometimes the AI will make unorthodox battle plans midway through the match and decide to charge into melee, which I never recommend, but sometimes the AI does it anyway. You know, Clem is doing a good job of managing the balls. He was prepared for this sort of environment. Now you see, even though Clem backed straight into the wall, because he didn't have any flat edges on there, his ship still managed to push itself to the side and escape, as opposed to just getting locked in. And it's looking like round 2, much like round 1, will be going on points. The ballroom blitz, blitz, blitz. I've got big balls. He's got big balls. He's got big balls. And Clem takes the match. An unexciting win, but a win nonetheless. And the balls are out of the arena. So now we have Quan up against Drills. And these two met in the sub pool, and it did not go well for Quan there. Or did not go well for Drills there. It went swimmingly for Quan. The little turbo protein sword guy is kind of nightmarish. I'm just shooting mortars at each other. And there it is. And Quan takes the match with out of fucking nowhere protein swords. A tough break for Drills. He didn't fare so well against Quan in the sub pool, and then his first opponent in the champion bracket. Doesn't get much worse. And Quan takes the match. So next up we have Lair up against Imperiex. Imperiex been having a very good debut tourney, but Lair has this funny habit of knifing people. However, those torpedoes could be a bit of a problem if Duke stops moving at any point. There's the protein sword ship. Duke appears to have most, if not all of his guns on point defense, which is going to cause him to not focus fire all that much. That could be a bit of a problem. But he seems to have positioned himself on the outskirts of the enemy fleet. Still think it would be unwise to completely write off Imperiex. The protein swords and the torpedoes both could cause a lot of damage very quickly. Yeah, I think you overcommitted to the PD a little bit there, Duke. If you had kept all your annihilators on primary fire, you probably would have killed at least a few of the ships by now. Although that said, you did get a chance to regenerate, but round 1 is going to go to Imperiex on points. Now that's a direct torpedo volley. Unpleasant. Dude just picked up 2 kills by ships headbutting the fucking melee spikes. That's so dumb. Well, that said, those torpedoes are now close enough that there's not really anything Duke can do about them. The potential for AI shenaniganry is very high right now. This, however, I think would work out really well for Duke. That's going to put the protein sword ship all by itself and let Duke do some damage to that. The protein sword ship is very heavily stacked, which makes it great against direct fire weapons, but pretty garbage against splash weapons. It would be really nice if Duke's ship would shoot the thing right next to it instead of just pointing at the guy that's halfway across the map. And there goes the torpedo ship. And that's the last of the probes, so now it's just the protein sword ship and Duke's ship. I don't know that the protein sword ship is going to be able to handle it. You can see the layers of armor just falling off. And Duke Slayer takes round 2. And this could work out well for Duke. He's got the protein sword ship directly in his sights, and the protein sword ship is down. He holds the power of that initial charge. And there goes the torpedo ship, so I think Duke's got this one pretty much in the bag. And yeah, indeed, Imperiex. There is still a chance. It is a double elimination tourney, meaning this is only Imperix's first defeat in here, so he might still make it to the champions, where he may or may not face Duke. That's so ridiculous. I like all the guns just not shooting. There they go. And Duke took the match, so now we have Imperiex up against Clem Hazard. And if I remember right, Clem Hazard struggled with the probes because AI shenaniganry. Yeah, in the previous rounds, it was the sword ship. So I think Clem's best bet is actually to slow boat the fight against the torpedo ship and just never engage the probe ship, or the laser ship. Imperiex does still have 6 ships on the field, though. Which is a not inconsiderable number of ships. Though the Torpy Boy really doesn't have a whole lot of maneuverability right now. Something happened to all of its thrusters. Not something being mines mostly. Hey, some of Imperix's friends are finally showing up. And there goes round 1 in favor of Clem. That is a very close sword ship. Yeah, all of Imperix's ships kind of toe the acceleration line. Yeah, the bravery here out of Clem's ship is pretty astounding, but in general I do not recommend bravery. And there goes the protein sword ship. I'm feeling like this might be Clem's round here as well. It's looking like Clem's got the match. There it is. Now we have Quan up against Conga. I think Conga's probably going to struggle with this. There's going to be some disrespect like that. There's going to be some flanking from a protein boy. And Quan takes round one. Quan's protein chip really does end matches very quickly. And the mines might kill Quan's kiter, but only if Clem doesn't disrespect on the distractors. Close though, Conga's almost got him dead. He gets a good hit on one of those generators, that's it. But Quan manages to take it. So next up we have Conga against Drills. So I feel like Conga has the advantage here. Drills has light distractors and a lot more mortars. But he doesn't have enough mortars to punch through a shield. So the bulk of his alpha volley is wasted. So little guy in Drill's fleet I think is struggling. Got the hard life. But round one goes to Conga. And I think that's all but over for round two. Yep. So, moving along, we have Clem Hazard against Conga. I don't know, I actually think Conga might have the advantage here. The big thing to consider is that both of them are shielded, but Conga's got the burst lasers, which are going to be pretty solid and reliable. And if Conga's shield goes down, the ship can dodge. But if Clem's shield goes down, that's it. Yeah, Conga keeps getting hit by the antimatter, but generally it's the same spots over and over. You'll notice Clem's antimatter hits aren't generating points. So it's not like Conga's in danger of dying sometime soon. It looks like Clem's shield was down there for a second. Yeah, there it is. And Conga takes round one. After a long dance, finally purchase was found. Some unfortunate things happened to the front of Conga's ship there. I'm gonna give Clem a good chance because the shield down for a few seconds whenever it does go down, and then there it is. Clem takes round two. Got him with the mines. But when a shield is up, it regenerates at a constant speed as long as there's enough generator capacity to actually recharge the shield. When it goes down, it's down for a few seconds. Then it comes back up with a very low amount of health. So once a shield goes down, getting it to come back up and fully recharge is almost impossible. That's kind of what we saw last time. Clem's shield went down, and then Conga was able to keep pressure up until Clem went down. Then in the next round, Conga's shield went down, and Clem was able to keep pressure up until Conga's ship was destroyed. And that's kind of just the way of it. Shields are in this weird place where they either make you functionally invincible or they're just a waste of points. I don't know, he had a dog to fight. I got you. Aha. Okay. Also for bonus points, I don't think Conga is actually using module stacking at all. Like the whole ship is completely unstacked. And Conga takes the run on points. So next up we have Duke up against Quan. Which, that could be unfortunate for Quan right there, having his ship charge out by itself. And Duke, his gun's being pretty brain dead again. Skirmishers have kind of always been in the background, but they have this weird problem where they generally lose to kiters because kiters are able to project more damage at range, and they generally lose to brawlers because brawlers are able to slug it out and trade favorably. Actually winning with kiters is pretty hard. Well, he only has forward thrusters, so he can't figure out how to turn to engage. He only has forward thrusters. Got some turning thrusters. But this is why I say to put thrusters in every direction on your ship. And there's Quan's protein sword ship down. So just wait a minute, let Duke kill these for a moment. Fight the puppy. Yes. Yeah, I think Conga's ship is going to be very unfond of Quan's. And Duke takes the match. So now we have Quan up against Conga, which I think is going to be a very ugly fight for Conga. Actually, I think they've already fought, and I think Quan is the one that sent Conga to the right bracket. Look. Yep, there it is. Quan takes round 1. Locking horns with protein swords is ill-advised. Locking horns with distractors is also ill-advised. I mean, Conga certainly has a chance, but I think Quan has a pretty solid advantage. Look, what Conga was doing right there is what Conga needed to keep doing. It's just like, instead of sitting there going, well, it's got a bunch of protein swords, which have a range of 300, so I'm going to sit at 350. But Conga is going to take round 2. Just to show us all that there's definitely a chance. Gotta love a 3-round match. Fighting my dog, fighting my dog. Yeah, Conga's ship seems to believe only in bullfights. All fights should be bullfights. This could be unfortunate for Conga. Yeah, hi little guy. Yeah. Yeah, I know you're a monster. Yes, I know you're a monster. And Quan takes the match. Now we've got Quan up against Duke's Lair, which we just saw a moment ago. Yeah, it was Quan that sent Conga into the right side as well, and then knocked Conga out. Yep. I don't know. I don't recall paying a whole lot of attention to, or I don't recall having seen any of your designs in action, I should say. Looking at screenshots isn't generally all that useful. Little guy. Alright. Sitting there like coughing at me. Yeah, I consider getting out of the sub pool to be a victory. Winning the champion bracket is just bragging rights. And ever since I changed the sub pool size from 6 to 8 to 4 to 5, it dramatically improved or dramatically increase your odds of getting out just flat out. You know, Duke's got a lot of bragging rights, to be fair. Hey! Quan knifed himself on the edge of the ship. Nice. The best part about melee armor is that you basically can't grind yourself to death on people. You grind yourself on to their death. Have a good one, Starfix. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Another first timer's victory clutched. And yeah, I should be alright with the DMCA thing. All the music on this channel is supposed to be non-copyrighted, so that'll be nice. If I get DMCA'd, then I'm assuming it's Reassembly that does it. But in the meantime, Duke Slayer wins the tournament, so congratulations, Duke. You are once again the nerdiest nerd that ever nerded. And in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.